So good morning, it's Friday the 7th of July 2017 and I'm in Plymouth Sound, UK. It's a beautiful day and I'm going to do the second single-handed race. You might have seen my first race. This one's to Dartmouth, starting in about half an hour. We've got a downwind course because the wind's in the west. I'm really looking forward to it. It's been a bit hectic getting here, but I'm pleased to be here. About 21 entries, which is really cool, and I'm all set to go. Just had a bit of a mad week, and got to get, which has required sort of a lot of strategic thought for logistics. But now the challenge for me is to get my head into today and just think about today and the tactics for the race. Downwind, this boat can be quite nice and can be quite fast. I've got the kite sheets all rigged up. Got about 5 knots of wind, so let's see what happens. I better check in on the radio, and we'll get on with it. 10-minute gun's just gone. 21 boats out here. It's quite a sight. It's really good. Main's up. Spinnaker is on the foredeck already. Pole's ready. I'm going to try and do a flying start. Yeah, see what it's like. It's all good. Just found out my heads isn't working, won't pump out, which is a bit annoying. So peeing straight in the sea today. Beautiful day. So we had a nice start. Come off the line, pretty good. People are getting their kites up. Life is good. Sailing today. Probably about half an hour in, I think. Just come around the Mewstone and cruising down past the River Yelm. Stunning day, about 10 knots. Just on the quarter. Came off the start really nicely, and I've just got settled into the race. A bit of autopilot on. Just setting the boat up, getting the main sorted for downwind because we've got about 30 miles of it. Yeah, and it's lovely. Kind of making about 5.5 knots over ground because we've got a bit of tide, and I'm pulling about 6 knots over the water, which is fantastic. Really, this is the conditions for Cliffhanger. She loves going downwind in relatively light airs. So yeah, I'm just going to keep sailing up hard and see what goes on. But it's lovely. Loads to do. It's crazy. I'm about hour and 20 minutes in. Georgie's steering, lying 7th on the water, which I think is pretty good. It's the smallest boat, and the boats in front of me are all pretty big. Just coming across Big Bree Bay, approaching Bolt Tail. Little bit of an interesting thing going on because we're going to hit start point where the big squeeze on the tide is, probably about the strongest tide. So it's where we go really. Like everyone sort of seems to just be straight lining it. So tactics wise, I'm not quite sure. There's probably going to be about a knot and a half, but I don't think it's really worth sailing any extra distance to come out of it. It's definitely not worth going too close to Bolt Head, Bolt Tail, because there'll be a bit of tide there as well. But yeah, it's nice cruising. It's quite hard work. The autopilot won't really steer the boat that well. Oh, hello. Because it's quite a funny angle. But yeah, it's good. I'm having a cup of tea and some minstrels. Lovely. We're just approaching Bolt Head. The wind's picked up. It's about 11 knots on the beam now. Beautiful. Cruising along 6-7 knots through the water. I don't know how accurate my instruments are, but making about 6.5 knots over ground. It's champagne sailing out here. Absolutely incredible. I've got my light spinnaker sheets on, which is a bit of a mistake because it's quite tough. on the hands, so I've got the gloves. Yeah, lying 7th on the water out of 21, which I'm really happy about. Guys from behind are catching up. They got some real big kites, but I think we're doing all right. I'm probably about a mile and a half off bolt head, bolt tail. Hopefully that'll mean that the tide will be a bit better. Just come around bolt tail. About 2 knots of tide, I think. It's quite strong. Just been passed by this big J yacht. Absolutely cruising on a nice A1 or something. Yeah, the sailing's lovely. So yeah, a bit bumpy around here because of the wind against tide, but a little bit of surfing, and I'm reaching 6.5 knots over ground, 8.5 knots sometimes over the water. Lovely. It's all about the lobster pot watch here. They're all over the bloody place. But I'm hand steering because I think it's faster because of the waves. I can catch the waves and I can get a good couple of knots if I surf them. So just off here, because it's steep, because it's wind against tide, tide's really strong. But yeah, using the camera, steering with my foot and trimming with my hand is hard, so I'm going to go. There's bolt tail, about a mile away I think. Bolt head, sorry, about a mile away. Doing alright I think. The wind's got a bit lighter just underneath here, and we're pushing a crap load of tide. So it's slow progress. Just want to get out of it because it's just not fast being in here. Wind's come a bit behind as well, which isn't helping things, but yeah, it's nice. There's about 1:30 now. So we're going all right. Tide's really ripping around Pool Point, and wind's dropped off a little bit and gone behind, so we're only making about 3 knots over ground, about 5 or 6 through the water. Lots of pots around again, but the sun is brutal today. Just looking at the charts, trying to get a head around tactics for coming around Start Point and then Skerries, which is a big patch of flat water. Try to see what's happening, but it's all good. Let's come out of the sun for a second actually. So that's Start Point, just up there, about 3 miles away maybe. Just come around Pool Point and you can just see Bolt Head, the entrance to Salcombe up there. The rest of the fleet are behind me there, and there's a group of about 7 boats just in front of me. So I'm sailing a little bit higher than I could just because the wind's light. I think I'm getting better VMG. I haven't really got the instruments to be able to tell me, but it just feels better. We're about on peak tide flow now, so it's good to be going high because I want to be able to keep out that tide as much as possible, and also I don't want to get stuck underneath. I think there's probably more wind out to sea, so I'm going to stick with that. Probably less wind, less tide, and see what goes on. Can't be doing too badly though, because these guys are only a couple of miles in front of me and we're nearly 4 hours in, and they should all be pretty fast. I think there's a westerly that looked like it was doing pretty well, because that won't be that fast, but it's nice. It's really, really warm. Feeling I've caught the sun a bit.
Yo! Let me tell you the son boy. You see when I know over this I run our phone and mouth but not kill sound. We over our sound doing what? Chilling. Working hard to make a few shilling. And we are doing it willing. Ha! Son boy, if you want to start the killing and the blood spilling. It's son boy! It's son boy! It's son boy! It's son boy! It's son boy!
Someone asked me the other day why I do the single-handed races, and it's quite an interesting question actually. I'm not quite sure, but I think it's probably because there's a different level of sort of physical challenge sailing a boat on your own. It's kind of easy in conditions like this when it's super light, but when it gets windy, you know, just jibing and getting the kite down is really hard. But it's completely different compared to racing with a team of people on the boat, where you have to delegate and have to get good teamwork going. This is about pre-planning, understanding all the bits and pieces you've got to do to be able to enable you to do a manoeuvre. Psychologically it's quite tough as well, concentrating on racing boat speed completely on your own for this amount of time. I think this will probably be about 7 hours. The last race was 12. So yeah, no, it's interesting. It's something to do, and I'm sailing, so why not do it? So I'm about 2 miles from start point. I'm just thinking about jibing. The wind's changed a little bit, and then if I'm looking at my angles to get into Dartmouth, if I make that jibe into the rocks just off start point where the boat is black sails, I'm going to cut off a lot of distance. It's a bit of a risk, but then it's a nice close reach for it's going to be quite broad, not too broad, up into Dartmouth. So it's just the tide really. It's ripping through a couple of knots, maybe 1.5 knots. So I just don't want to have to do a couple of jibes. So I think I'm probably gonna hold off for a couple of minutes and then go for it. So first jibe done. I'm just approaching start point now. That's really good. It's kind of cool that the angle went like that, because it's just meaning that I'm getting loads better VMG now on this tack. I probably should have gone a little bit earlier, but I'm going to push the tide at some speed, so I'll get through it fast. So I'm really happy. Bit of wind coming in as well, so really good. So here's start point. Come pretty inshore. From here, Dartmouth's just over there in the distance. I'm just going to head up about 20 degrees, I think, 20-30 degrees, and I'm going to be reaching straight into Dartmouth, just watching out for the Skerries Bank, which is pretty shallow, just quite close to where I go over it. So everyone else seems to have gone quite low. We'll see what happens, but I'm cruising along, pulling 5.5 knots, 6 knots over ground. I'm going to do some hand steering now because I think it's much quicker. Water's dead flat, beautiful. I'm close reaching across. It's quite tough actually, it's a bit close. I'm just trying to make about 25 on the heading to get in, but we're getting lots of gusts coming out of the bay. But yeah, when I get going, I'm cruising at 7 knots through the water, so it's really good. Should be finished in an hour. Got quite a lot on here. We've got a pretty tight reach. I'm struggling to get up to the mark. Broaching a few times, but just holding it. Need those heavyweight sheets on because I'm shredding my hands, but can't do anything about it now. Probably about 3 or 4 miles out, cruising at 6.5 knots, just on the edge of the kite, working the main. Come on. It's too much for the autopilot really, so I'm having to do everything. Had a little bit of an upwind leg into the harbour, wind's blowing straight out, but yeah, that was super fun. Felt a lot better than on the last straight. Downwind, this thing's much more comfortable and performs pretty well. So I'm going to go and berth up and have a beer. Pretty tiring, just lots of concentration.